50% of our happiness is based on our genetics. So
Really?
that's something that's it's completely out of our control. It's just our genetic lottery. Did we win it? Did we not? So we may not, of that 50%, we may not have gotten the full 50. We
Right.
maybe only got like, say, 27, but we're never at zero in that category. 10% of our happiness is based on circumstance. So that's, do we have the job that we want? Do we have the relationship do we want? Are we wearing the designer labels that we like? But we find that people put 100% of their energy into only 10% of what actually creates their happiness.
Everybody, thanks for joining In Pursuit of Better. Today we do another deep dive into mental health and brain mastery with Sheila Sutherland. She's kind of an expert on mindset coaching and how to get past traumas in our life and then optimize our mental state and some of those mental practices to help us get better going forward. So without further ado, let's jump into this really cool conversation with Sheila. All right, Sheila. Well, I wanted to say first, thanks for taking the time to do this today. I know you have a really cool profile, and I've seen you on social media. So I'm excited to dive into the conversation. And I kind of want to start by just broadly saying, what is it that you do, and why is it that you do that?
Oh my goodness, and that is such a broad question.
I'll start
What
off
is it,
hard, challenging.
right? What is it that I do? I hope at right down to the base of thing, I hope I help people make their lives better. Because we've been through some stuff over this last little while. And I think a lot of things have come up to light for a lot of people that they're not happy the direction their lives are going. And they want to make changes and they don't know what that is. And I hope that I can just be that, guiding light and cheerleader for them to, help them along that way. Cause I've been through a long list of stuff myself. There's not anything I think out there that surprises me anymore. And I'll be like, oh yeah, here we go. Life has given me something else to deal with. Awesome. And so I'm hoping that I can be that person to help fast track someone else's journey because they can leverage some of the knowledge that I've learned along the way. And so just to make it a little bit easier, why I do it, because, when I was first going through my journey, I didn't know where to look. I didn't know where to turn. I knew changes had to be made, but I had no idea, like absolutely zero of what that meant, what that looked like. And it was a long, kind of lonely journey.
Mm.
And probably I don't even like, I don't really know the timeline now, but maybe a year or two or so into it, I did start having people come into my life to help me on that. And I was like, oh, cool. Okay, now if I can do this for someone else and be there for them, that would be the best thing in the world because change isn't easy. And there's some not so fun aspects of it. And knowing that I have somebody in my corner cheering me on and who has my back is what made all the difference for me because there was so many times I was kind of ready to go, screw it. I'm not doing this. I want to go back to the way things were. But I knew there was a part of me that said, no, no, this isn't what you were meant for. You're meant for something different. You're meant to do this path. And so yeah, it's just, being there to be a part of someone's beautiful journey like that. It's amazing.
When you talk about a journey, and I guess in particular your journey, is that like your adult life? Is that your entire life? What do you consider that journey and
Oh
that
goodness,
you're
yeah.
talking about?
I guess originally I would have said just my adult life,
Yeah.
but I have since learned that it's been a lot longer than that. Because when was it now? 2011 is when I was first diagnosed with PTSD. And that was the start of what I thought was my journey of figuring out what all that meant and what does my life look like with this? Because that's a heavy label, to put on someone. And everything that I was dealing with that and trying to find someone who was kind of knew what I was going through to help me through, that was tough. But I through the work and through the people that I have been able to find to help work with me, I realized I've been dealing with complex PTSD since I was a child,
Mm,
and started to be able to unravel a lot of that, childhood trauma that I at the time didn't really view it as trauma, but then I started seeing how it was affecting my life and how the same patterns kept showing up all the time. And I was like, oh, right, okay, so we got to go back to the root of all this. And that involves me really going back and re-looking and seeing what the start of all this was. So what I thought, was the start of my journey ended up being, like you say, once you start digging into it, you're
yeah.
realizing it can be a lot more complex than you originally thought.
What were those patterns that you were recognizing that, okay, this did go back further than just, when you thought, like, was it a cyclical thing in your life? Like you'd go down a certain road and then get somewhere again. What did that look like for you?
One of the biggest things that kept showing up for me, and I call myself a recovering people pleaser
Okay.
because that's one of the first, I'd say, characteristics that I saw right from childhood.
Mm,
And it also coupled that with being the one to kind of be like the life's referee. I became that person for my family at a very young age. And I mean, I always looked at that to go, oh, well, it caused me to grow up quickly. It caused me to create, have all these skills kind of thing, which is like, yeah, great. But it also caused me to kind of miss out on a lot of childhood, a lot of that just having that carefree joy that children should have. That should be the life of every child, and I know that doesn't always work out that way for a lot of people, and I happen to be one of those. And so I started seeing where I was constantly being put in these positions where, I had to be the referee, I had to be the peacemaker, I had to be the one to bring everybody back together, and then making sure everybody else was happy, making sure everyone else was good, no, there's no drama going on. And then by the time that was all done, I was exhausted. And then I would be like, oh, I don't even have the energy to do anything for me. And that just kept showing up over and over and over again, where I gave everything of myself to everybody else. And if there was anything left, which usually there wasn't, then I could give to myself. And that, like I say, that never happened. My stuff always got put to the back burner. Always, oh, I'll get to that when I get to it. And you never get to it,
right.
and it was finally I got to that point where that stuff that was sitting way back here in the background said, you know what, we're kind of tired of being ignored. You're going to deal with us now.
Okay.
And so that's when I went through my major trauma where, like I say, where I was diagnosed with PTSD, where I had no choice. I had to kind of step away from everything and everyone and go, it's me time now.
Hmm.
And I need to figure this out because my body, it's just like everything shut right down. I had hit to that, that proverbial straw that broke the camel's back kind of thing. I could not go on any further. And, whatever you want to call it, something in the universe kind of said, no, this is it. We are tired. We've given you signs. We've upped the ante on the signs and you're still not listening. So we're going to pull the rug out now where you have no choice. And I would encourage people not to get to that point. So if
Yeah.
you start seeing those signs, please listen. Because yeah, you don't want to get to that point where you don't have the choice anymore.
No, that was going to be my next question is what do you say to people that feel like they're in that feedback loop of that
Right.
struggle because nobody wants to go and get the diagnosis because then that can become an identifier for you. So how do you
Yes.
recognize or what do you say to those people that, are kind of afraid to then go get the help because then that's admitting that they're struggling, right? And nobody wants to do that.
Nobody wants to do that, but you know what? It takes a huge act of bravery. It takes a huge act of courage for yourself to do that. And the reality is, and it's something I had to keep telling myself over and over again, that if I don't stand up for me, who else is?
Mm.
I'm the only one who can. I'm the only one who can stand up for me, who can fight for me. I'm the one that's in control of this. There is no, knight on a white horse that's going to come and save me kind of thing, right? And it's really easy to fall into that pattern of, someone's going to come along, someone's going to, give me the job that I always want. Some relationship's going to come along that's just going to take me away from all of this.
Mm,
It's really easy to put your power into something like that, but you're giving your power away in that. And it was something I had to really realize, that I need to take my power back. I need to get back into the driver's seat. I need to do this. And that, like I say, that took some courage. I mean, it was scary. I will be the first to admit there was a lot of fear involved, because I didn't know what the answers were going to be. I didn't like from the health aspect, when I went to the doctors, I didn't like the answers that I got, but I needed those, right? And I needed, because I need everything was in my ability to be able to change it. And how do you change something if you don't know where you're starting from?
mm,
You need to have that starting point. Or I mean, you could uh, think that you're like, oh, this will be, I just need to do this. And you could spend years going down that path and realize that was a completely wrong path, because it had nothing to do with where you started from. So as much as it is scary to ask for help, now, again, I'll admit I'm still working on that. I am not a good person at asking for help, because I'm always the person people come to for help,
right.
right? So it's that learning to really listen. It's learning to really get quiet with yourself, because we all have that intuitive voice. I used to think that was only for special people. I thought it was only people who had special gifts that had this thing called intuition. But I have since learned we are all born with it. But somewhere down the line, a lot of times things happen, experiences happen, that we quiet that voice, or we start ignoring that voice, and we don't hear it anymore. And it's really getting to that point where you have to learn to quiet your world and quiet your body enough to be able to hear it, and then be able to act on it. And that was something, like I say, when my world essentially came to an end, that's what I had to learn to do. And, you know, a lot of times I questioned it. A lot of times I was like, oh, I don't know. But I started seeing that the more times I listened to it, the better direction, or the better choices, or the more positive reactions I was getting. Because there was times when I didn't listen to it, and something would happen, and I'd be like, oh crap, all right. Okay, that was a lesson. I now know, I now going back, I can see this. So there's a lot of reflection. And a lot of, like I say, that in itself can be foreign, for a lot of people, and feeling uncomfortable. But this is where, if you have someone that you find that you connect with, that you can work with, they can help you through that. Because it can be tough to really recognize those things and unpack those things on your own. And so I always suggest people, when you're trying to find someone to work with, and a lot of times it has to be outside of friends and family, because you need somebody who's completely unbiased. I mean, our friends and family love us, they love us to death, they want us what's best for us, but a lot of times they have blind spots,
Mm,
and they can have the same blind spots that we have. And you need somebody who can see the whole picture. But it's finding that person that you connect with, that you feel that they get you. And so try out different people. It's not going to be the first person you come in contact with. It's finding that person that you truly resonate with their story and what they've been through, and they think that you'll get it, and they think, and you feel that they'll listen to you. Then get them on your side. There is no shame in having somebody work with you. I mean, you look at some of the top people in the, say, in finance, in whatever industry you want to look at, they all have mentors.
mhm.
They all have people who they go to, who they trust, who they can bounce ideas off of, or can help set them straight when they go a little off track. So it's, everybody has that in their life. So there is no shame in having somebody in your corner, and they're there to make help you get to a stronger, better place. So I encourage people, if you're in that position, find someone who you who really true like you resonate with and you can trust to be there for you.
You talked about finding a couple people that really had a big impact on your life. Did those people come in at that same time as you kind of hit that bottom, or was it did they help you recognize that you needed to go seek, some additional help? Like, how did that happen?
Well, I think there's going to be, people are going to come and go for, they say people come into your life for, a reason, a season, or a lifetime.
Mm,
And I think that there are people that are going to come in at different points. And so I would have people come in that would initially get me started and got me initially started down that road. And then it feel like, okay, I think we've gone as far as we can go. I now need to go to another level. And then that person would come in, and everybody takes you to a different point, a different level. Like it may not be the same person for the whole journey, or it may be, you never know. Excuse me. But it's being open to being able to have these people guide you and support you in different ways. And I think people may think it's a little cliche to hear it, but I really believe in it, is that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
mm.
Right. So for every level that you're ready, somebody will come into your life who's going to be that person to help you through that. And then there's going to be, like I say, another level. When you are ready for that, another new person is going to, I don't want to say magically, but it is. It's like sometimes they just magically appear, and just kind of keeping your eye out for them.
Yeah, you have to be open to at
Yes.
least, yeah.
Oh,
Um,
yes, you have to be.
um, well, one thing, because I've always been a people pleaser myself, and you talk to people or you see these people, other people like that in your life, and we're always hesitant to put ourselves first or give ourselves, what we need, but you have to do that in order to give back to other people, right? I mean, so what do you say to other
Yeah.
people I mean, obviously you're going to recognize those same symptoms since you were one, but people
Yes.
that feel selfish almost in taking care of themselves, like almost like they're taking away from others, or it's not right to take care of themselves.
That is a tough one. Like you say, and any of us who are in those, kind of people pleasing roles, I mean, it's something that you truly have to learn. I mean, some days I'm really jealous of the people that just get it. Right
Yeah.
from the get-go, they've never had an issue with it. And I just be like, oh, I'm so in awe, because I literally, it's a daily choice that I have to make. And still at this point, I think it probably always will be a daily choice where I will look at something and go, do I have do I have enough to give right now? Because, and again, it says you can't give, and you can't be a full service to the people that you love and the people that are around you when you're an empty vessel. You can't borrow on tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that. And believe me, I tried. And it was kind of that whole, writing checks that my body couldn't cash kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I paid the price. I paid the ultimate price with my health. And I would, nobody wants to do that, because we know if we don't have our health, we don't have anything. Right. So you do have to step back and kind of go, okay, I would really like to help this person in this moment. Do I have right now, do I have what it takes to be able to do that without being a detriment to myself? And you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to have those come to Jesus kind of moments, with yourself, of kind of like, do I have enough in my reserve right now for this? And if you don't, you you have to give yourself that self-compassion and go,
Right.
okay, I just don't right now. I would really love to. I'd really love to be there. I just can't right now. And that takes time to get comfortable with that feeling. And there's going to be times where you're going to feel like you let people down and that you're not there for them. But you, when you've never been in that position to take care of yourself, it's going to take some effort. And I know this may sound like a huge change to make for someone who's maybe never done it, but I would encourage them, when you think of being in the pursuit of better, it only needs to be 1%. Some days, because there's going to be days where you're not going to be 100% anything. But if you can tip that scale, that one more percent, you're going to find on the other end, it's going to magnify a whole lot. So if you're someone who say is like every day you're out there doing something for someone, maybe take one day a week that's just for you. That's where I had to start. I would block off Mondays, and I still try to do that.
Yeah.
Where Mondays I do not take meetings, I do not make appointments, I don't go and, I don't, I'm not out helping my mom, I'm not out doing anybody, it's just for me and whatever that day is going to look like, because I need to have that day to refuel. And, because weekends we're always busy, we're running around trying to catch up on the things that we didn't do before. So I always felt Monday was a perfect day.
Yeah.
'Cause who likes Mondays? I don't know. So I'm gonna make Monday a day that I really enjoy. So
I
that's what
like
I would
that.
do, right? So it's find whatever day works for you, or like I say, if this is a strategy that you think is going to help you, but I had to find a way to fit into my life, that a way to refuel and recharge myself so I could be there, because I'm never not going to be there for the people who that are in my life and that I care for. That's just not in my makeup, right? That's not who I am. I am that person who's going to be there for anyone who needs me, but I need to be able to do it in a position that is not hurting myself. I spent too many years putting myself at a detriment, putting myself at a deficient state, and I cannot do that anymore, because I have plans to live to 100. I want to see my 100th birthday, and the only way I'm going to do that is if I take care of me. And when I take care of me, that just means I get to help more people,
Mm.
because the stronger and the healthier I am, the more people I can help on the other side, because my tank just gets more and more and more full, that then it's overflowing and I can help way more. So at the beginning, it may feel uncomfortable, it may feel not good because you're not being there, but give it time. And then you're going to rebuild your strength and rebuild your ability to be there for everyone. And then you're going to be able to help twice or 10 times, the amount of people that you would have been able to do before.
You talk about these, even like 1%, these small incremental changes, and that things take time.
Mhm.
So after you received your diagnosis, how did you start to then rebuild your life and not let this now illness define you and kind of just say, well, that's just what it is. Like you had that option where you could have just
Oh, yeah.
sulked in it. So how did you not do that and use it to empower you?
Oh, believe me, there were days where I'm like, nope, I'm just going to sit here and wallow. And you know what? There are days that's fine. We're
Yeah.
all going to have those days, right? I kind of worry about some of the messages that get out there that sound like we have to be 100% positive 100% of the time.
Yeah.
That's not realistic, people. I don't even think like Mother Teresa and Gandhi were ever positive 100% of the time.
Right.
I just don't think that's valid, because every emotion we have, there's power in it. There's a message in there for us. So you know what, the thing is it is the power of choice, and it is like, today I choose to. And is today going to be the day that you choose to wallow? Okay, but put a time limit on it. So I would say, okay, I'm going to give myself an hour, to cry it out, to rage around the house, to just do whatever I need to do to get it out of my body. And then I need to come out of it. And then I had to have my strategies in place to help me get out of it. And one of the things for me was always music. So
Oh,
I had a playlist, and I'd be like, okay, I'm done. I'm now going to throw on my playlist. That the moment I put those songs on, it just fills me up. It gets me moving, And there was one thing I always remember. I was at this conference that Tony Robbins was speaking at, and he always said that the best way to change your emotional state is to change your physical state. And it's really like the one thing that I will always remember coming out of that conference with. And then he came off the stage, and he had the music come up, and it was just like the room was almost bouncing right? For the energy of the music in there. And he was getting all of us just to get up on our feet and move our bodies and kind of shake us out of whatever we were in when we first walked into that building that morning. And I felt the power in that. And I
Hmm.
was like, okay, this is what I need to do. So I'm going to allow myself to have my wallow moments, but I now know that if I put the right music on, I can shake it off. You look at animals, right? When they go through that, and that's one thing I love about animals. You see them get up, or they'll go through something, they get up and they shake their whole bodies. That
Yeah.
is resetting their nervous system. And I think, and then that's what we need to do more often, right? So it's getting up, moving, shaking our physical state, getting some movement happening, and that will get our emotions not moving. So that's what I would do is I would, okay, I'm feeling kind of, oh, woe is me. Allow myself to sit in it for a little bit. And then, over time I got to realize it didn't feel good to sit in it.
Right.
And so that hour became a half hour, and then it became 10 minutes, and then it was like, oh, screw that, I'm not even going to do it at all. So it's having whatever those strategies are that in place, so when you need them, you can call on them, because sometimes trying to think of them in the moment can be really tough, especially if you've got like an emotional roller coaster or turmoil, or this negative thought pattern that's going on in your head. It's really hard to access those the kind of that higher order thinking and that problem solving that we need. So I had my sheet of paper. Well, I did have it printed out. I had it on my computer and whatnot. I had it in different places that I knew I could get to when I needed it. And these were my strategies that I was going to use. So it could be going out and walking in nature. It could be writing. It could be talking to somebody. It could, make your list of the things that help bring you out of the darkness, so that when you are in that state, you don't have to try to think of them. You've got your cheat sheet ready to go, and pick the one that you feel like is the one you need in that moment, and then run with it. And, eventually, that having that sheet, you're not going to, it'd be a security blanket at the beginning, but
Hmm.
eventually you're not going to need it as often. Right. So it's just having those strategies in place and really knowing you and knowing what fits for you. Like I could give you 20 different strategies, but those don't
But
work for
yeah.
me, right? So you have to find the ones that really speak to you and for your being, and that fill you up. And so it's sitting down and go, what brings me joy? Because that's something that's different for everyone.
Right.
So what is it where I can lose myself in an activity and I feel awesome afterwards? Make that list, have that ready for you.
No, I really like the whole message that you provide there, because it's the whole idea that there's one path to happiness, or just is just so false.
Yeah.
And it was one of the reasons why I wanted to start this podcast in the beginning. It's because I always struggled with, I'd see people that were successful and it seemed like they would present it as like they had this, there's this one thing you need to wake up at this time, do this work. It's like, but then you start to talk to people and you realize there's nothing linear about life
Oh
itself
God,
or
no.
their path to success. And that, kind of being open to those different relationships or opportunities or things like that is very important in finding what you enjoy and what you're good at and things like that. So as we start to say, okay, well, this is my list of things that bring me joy, how do we kind of make that, use that little happiness handbook to say, how do I make that the baseline for my life? Like now I have my cheat sheet of the things that bring me joy. And it's personal to me, but how do I make that more of my baseline than just, oh, I got to go find it to get myself out of this?
Well, it's like a practice.
Okay.
So it's same way if you decide that you want to take up martial arts. It's gonna take some time before you get those base moves down and you understand what each one is used for, and you get the right breath involved that goes with you. Like it takes a practice. When you're doing yoga, not everyone can just flow out the mat and all of a sudden you're doing,
Mm,
I don't even know something with the downward dogs and
yeah.
whatnot. I'm not a yoga person, but you can't do it all at once, right? So it takes time. You're not going to get it right off the start. right? So it's the practice part of it. So you're gonna start, you're gonna, you pick up that guitar, you're gonna start making some sounds that make no sense whatsoever. But a year from now, those random sounds now become a song, right? So you've made your list that just seems like this random list of who knows what. But over time, you're going to get a flow that works for you. There's going to be some that you're going to tend towards more than others. And over time, I say a year from now, you're going to be like, okay, my base thing every morning is that I get up, I go for a walk, I come home, I have, a good breakfast, I have a time of meditation, whatever it is, like you will form your routine.
Right.
And that becomes your baseline. But it like you say, it is a daily practice. Like you cannot get good at anything if there is no consistency. It's not a one and done. I wish I could give you the magic pill that says that it's a one and done.
Yeah.
Life doesn't work that way.
Well, I sit there and I talk about this. We all have this path towards growth, and I even like named the podcast "The Pursuit of Better" because you never find that maximum. But I'm guilty of it myself. Where I'm asking you, like, well, how do I make this my everyday? And it's you always forget that these things take time and consistency
Yeah.
over time to do it because we all want it to happen quickly,
Oh
right?
God,
So,
yes.
well, I mean, you work with a lot of people. So what is the biggest thing that you tell them whenever it's about finding that patience and just kind of like gratitude for the everyday instead of saying, well, I want to be, at my, ultimate success now, or I want to be happy now? How do you get people to kind of reshift that mindset?
Well, and the one thing you said about I want to be happy now, you can be. There is no what I don't my belief anyways, that's I don't think there is that pursuit of happiness. It's the choices that I make right now.
Mm,
It's not for me anyways, happiness isn't a destination because like you said, we never know what that's going to look like when we get there. So how are we going to recognize it? Because we still think it's this place somewhere in the distance. So why can't it be right now? And there was this, and there's a documentary that I hope it's still out there because Lord knows I talk about it a lot, that I found on Netflix like years ago, and it's just called Happy.
mhm.
And the kind of the cover is just like I just is a bunch of like little blue balls with happy faces on them, and then you got the one yellow smiley face in the middle. And the one thing that really stood out for me, well, there was a lot of things that really stood out for me in that documentary, but these were some researchers that were researching happiness. And because they said the number one question you ask any man in the street is, what do you want? I want to be happy. But it seems like nobody is. And it's like, why is that? Because we're always in this pursuit of it, but we're never seeming to find it. But the reality is we can create it. It isn't something to find. We can actually create it. And what they found out, if you don't mind me going down this
No,
rabbit hole,
please.
what they found out is 50% of our happiness is based on our genetics. So
Right.
that's something it's completely out of our control. It's just our genetic lottery. Did we win it? Did we not? So we may not, of that 50%, we may have not gotten the full 50. We
Right.
maybe only got like say 27, but we're never at zero in that category. So based on whoever your family is and whatever genetics you have some people are just more predisposed to happiness than others. So we have 50% of that is genetics. 10% of our happiness is based on circumstance. So that's, do we have the job that we want? Do we have the relationship do we want? Are we wearing the designer labels that we like? But we find that people put 100% of their energy into only 10% of what actually creates their happiness.
Right.
So there's a divide there that we need to recognize, that all of those things, all of that outside validation that we seem to always be pursuing, and what a lot of our social media and our just society is kind of pointing us towards of, oh, that you'll be happy when you get this kind of thing, it really only accounts for 10% of our overall happiness. So why are we putting so much of our time, energy, and focus when we're only getting a 10% return? But that still leaves us with 40% unaccounted for. That 40% is all based on our intentional behavior. So we have choice in 40% of our happiness. So when we have our 10% in our circumstances, those things can come and go, right? They can be very fluid. You can have them one day, they can disappear the next. But 40% of it, we get to choose what's in our life, or we get to choose what to do with our life. And when people realize that you've got 40% of your overall happiness power in your hands, well, that sky's the limit at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's like, well, each day, like I've got this sign in my office that says, today I choose happy. So it's like waking up and just going, okay, today I'm going to make the choice. And what can I do in this day? What activities can I do that are actually going to bring that happiness? And I think when people take that power back and realize, you know what, I can't do anything about my genetics. Now, I'm sure there's somebody out there who studies epigenetics that says, yes, you can. That's not my area of expertise. So
Right.
you tell me how that works and I will get on board. But for right now, I will say, 50% of your genetics, you can't deal with anything. 10%, yes, you can work with your circumstances, but it's only a 10% return. So why don't we put our time, energy, and focus where we get a 40% return?
Right.
Because anybody in finance will tell you, if you're going to invest in something, if you're going to get a 40% return, oh, that's amazing. All right, so let's put all of our time, energy, and focus in that 40%, those daily, intentional, creative moments that I can create the life that I want, that I deserve, that I believe that I can have. What can I do? What actions can I take to make that 40% the best that it can be?
You talked about it earlier a little bit because you said that people sometimes want that knight in shining armor, that
Yes.
something else to create that happiness with them.
Yeah.
And I like that it's based on this idea that, well, you can control most of your happiness. Like you don't have to wait for a thing, a job, a whatever.
No.
I talk about it a lot with like success, that maybe we should just change the way we define it rather than saying
Yes.
it's money or it's a specific job title, because as soon as you get there you realize there's other people with more money with a better job title.
Yes.
So it's got to be tailored to you. But identifying those, the I can make the choice to be happy, and B, like these are the things that make me happy. Is that emotional intelligence? Is that what the kind of the definition of it is? Just being able to recognize those things, or how do you define it?
Yeah, I would say that for me, that like there are 26 different competencies that make up emotional intelligence. The one that I view anyways as the number one is self-awareness.
Okay.
And I think that we just overall, we humans in general, we don't spend enough time in that self-awareness piece.
What's scary?
It is. Sometimes we don't want to know. Like we said before, we don't want to know those answers.
And we want to think better things of ourselves too, right? I feel like I struggle with the self-awareness thing. Like I think certain things about myself, but I'm always wondering, like, is that correct? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, because it is so easy to lie to
Right,
ourselves.
right.
It really is. But it really doesn't serve you in the end.
Okay.
I know I have habits still in my life that are not serving me.
Yeah.
And it's like it's sitting down with them, like, and then it becomes your why of, okay, do I want to change these? What's the why behind these? And I'm like, no, I'm not ready to change this yet, or this is why. But it's having that awareness, being able to kind of go, okay, I am the one who's in my own way. And I think that was one of my biggest aha moments, is I was my biggest stumbling block. I kept putting up resistance or putting up barriers to get where I wanted to go. As much as I wanted to blame it on a bunch of other things and other people,
Right.
because that's easy to do, because it's got to be somebody else's fault. It cannot be my fault. Like, why would I ever admit to that? But when you can, like, and that's where I think a big piece of the emotional intelligence part comes into, is when I can admit to myself that, no, you know what, I don't know everything. I don't have the answers. I'm not doing what serves me the best. And here's what could happen in my life if I did change it. And I was like, yeah, do I really want that? Yeah, I do. But now I need to intentionally put the actions in place to do that. And in doing that, you then kind of enact another one of the big, for me, big competencies of emotional intelligence is personal power. And that's taking that power back. Where again, where you are putting yourself back in control of your life and not just allowing life to happen to you, having that personal power of having that intentional creation of my life.
Mm.
That is a huge piece of the emotional intelligence part of it, because you're not leaving things to chance. You're not leaving things, again, you're not putting all of your return on investment to something, to the outside world that you don't have control of. Put that investment in yourself. See that that you are worth that investment. And if I'm going to put all that time, effort, and focus in something, why wouldn't I want to put it in the greatest investment that I have, and that's me? Because again, that's going to allow me to do better things for more people on the other end.
I'm glad you clarified that because I still feel like people struggle with the idea of like that they're their biggest asset, like they're their own
Mhm.
biggest asset, or they're, and you talk about it sometimes about being your own superhero.
Yes.
Like you have to understand that invest in yourself is always a good thing, right?
Oh, yes. You will. I don't think that you'll ever regret investing in yourself in however form that looks like. It is. You will always get a good return.
And what are I get? Let's talk about the forms. Like, what are ways that someone can invest in themselves? Obviously, we've talked about you know finding someone to help them through that process.
Yes.
But others, like there's their health or their mental state. Like, what are ways that you suggest people invest in themselves?
Oh, definitely. Okay. So, like I say, when you think of investing in yourself, of having someone to work with, so that's you're helping your emotional and your mental state there. Investing in yourself physically. So that can be, maybe you're wanting to go to the gym. Maybe you're wanting to learn new eating habits. Maybe you're wanting to learn new sleeping habits.
Mm.
Maybe there's certain, getting those tests done that you've been avoiding doing. Like I have a panel of blood tests that I do not on probably every 2 to 3 months, just so I can keep an eye on things. Right. That way I can go, oh, something's going wrong here. Now it gives me a chance to make a course correction before something gets worse down the road. Right. So it's doing that, seeing those practitioners. Maybe you want to invest in yourself by having a massage once a month. Maybe
Okay.
that's what's really going to do something that's really good for your body. Maybe there are, oh my gosh, there's so many different ways physically that you could, treat your body. Maybe it's just uh, going and having a pedicure done, because you know what? Your feet go through a lot during the day. And when your feet get tired, your whole body's tired. So we should treat them well, you
Right.
know? So it's finding those little things to invest in your body. And maybe it's investing in your mind, of maybe there's some courses that you've always wanted to take, or maybe there's things that you're interested in. Like, so many people think, oh, I'm on this one path, in my career wise, but I've always been interested in something that's a complete 180.
Yeah.
Take the course. You may enjoy that. There may be people can have the multiple intelligences of being good in so many different things. Explore them, because when you explore those things, I mean, think of children. Like, they get out there and they are just doing everything. They are trying everything out, and they don't worry that, oh, they tried something and they fell down.
Yeah.
We kind of lose that. So try something out. See if there's a sport you've always wanted to try. go do it. You may suck at it. Oh, well, you went and you gave it a try. Right. So it's investing in those things to almost like bringing more of a multicolor situation into your life. Because I think we get stuck in this monochromatic living. And sure, it's easy. We know what to expect. It's predictable. It's put that one foot in front of the other every day. But eventually it becomes boring and it becomes soul sucking.
Yeah, but when you do those other things that you're just trying, you might look silly to other people, or
You
maybe
could,
that's
you could, and I
yeah,
will guarantee you will at
of
something.
course.
That's part of the fun. We lose the curiosity. It seems like what we had as children.
But it's because of that embarrassment, right? Like we don't want to look, you know, stupid to our friends or to whoever.
And you know what? And yeah, I get that, but you know what? When you can do that and people see that you're doing that, you give them the opening for them to do that as well.
So that's
Maybe you need to be the leader in looking weird.
I like that. I
Maybe
like
you
that a
do.
lot. Because if nothing else, maybe you do fail at it. Maybe it never becomes anything for you, but maybe you give someone else the spark to try something in their life.
Exactly. You don't know what I always found interesting in this whole thing. You don't know who's watching you.
Yeah, yeah.
And you don't know the impact that you could be having that you're not even aware of.
Yep.
And by you going and doing something that you've always wanted to do, but you've been a little bit scared to do because you thought you might look silly doing it, and you went and did it, and yeah, maybe you did look silly doing it, but you laughed, you had fun, and you went, oh, well, that didn't work out. But somebody who's sitting in the background went, wow, they took a chance and they did it, and they just went for it. Well, if
Yeah.
they can do it, maybe I can.
Well, I like to think of it in the terms of like if you're not following your passions, if you're not sharing what your talents are with the world, then you're withholding that from us. Like
Yeah,
if Sheila's not doing what she's good at, if she's not sharing these motivational things for other people, then that's so many people that never got to experience that. So you're withholding it. It's rude, really, not to do your.
it is actually. How rude of me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and because, and do I think I have all the answers? Oh, hell no. I still have lots to learn. But I always look at whenever I decide to come onto a program and talk with someone like you today, I always come in with the intention that I hope I say something that just one person needs to hear.
yeah.
And if there's just one of your listeners where I've given them a kick in the butt or I've caused them to think about something or look at something a little differently or question something, then my day is good.
Well, you've given me like 8 things, so I think your day's
Awesome.
already.
Good.
Well, that's
So
how.
I'm good for the whole week.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. No, I think that's what's cool about this is like it's an opportunity not only for other people that listen to it to get something, but I get to learn every time I have one of these conversations. It's amazing.
I love these platforms. I mean, I never would have gotten a chance to meet you without this.
Right.
And so I am forever grateful every day for this technology that we have, that we can reach out and touch people all over the world
Yeah.
with just our voices and just being able people to see us. I think that is magical, and and we're using it for the good.
Yeah.
So, and we're spreading positivity and happiness and optimism. That's what the word I
I
was
like
just
it.
having the optimism out there, because you know what? I know life can be challenging and life will throw stuff at us, but we have the control to turn our reactions around. The only thing we have control of our life is our reactions, and how we show up in the world is everything.
Well, and like you said, you never know who's watching, right?
Exactly.
So, well, I do. Before you go, I do want to ask you because I've read about you doing the 10 days of silence. I
Yes.
want to know what that is and what that did for you.
Oh my goodness. Uh, I will say I would wish that everybody would go and do this 10-day, and it's not just me at home going, I'm just going to be silent for 10 days.
Okay.
It was a Vipassana meditation. So I actually went to a meditation center where we were there for the 10 days of silence. And I know it's not for everybody. I know but I wish everybody could do it, because it is a true challenge to see how you can go through something like that. So what it was, so you have to hand in your phone, so you do not have your devices at
Okay.
all. So you have no contact with the outside world. You're not allowed to talk to anybody. You're not allowed to meet eye contact with anybody. You're not allowed to have any sort of outward body language towards everybody. And there was 70 of us there, right? So it's a challenge not to have
Yeah.
body language and not to have move your eyebrows and not to, meet eye contact. But the whole point of it was to truly just get in touch with yourselves, get in touch with your own thoughts, and be alone with yourself. And you're actually mimicking living the life of a monk.
Okay.
So you're living in very simple surroundings. You're eating a very simple vegetarian diet. It's almost like a mental and physical cleanse all at the same time. And we would have, different meditative we were actually in meditation 10 hours a day. That's intense.
Yeah.
Because I was never a meditator before.
Well, I can't meditate 10 minutes, it seems like.
Oh, you learn really fast.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting process, right? Of just learning how to quiet your mind, learning how to quiet your body. And the one thing I really enjoyed about it is because, when you're sitting in meditation, a lot of times, you get kind of antsy and fidgety and whatnot. And it was learning how to let that feeling come up to the surface and not react to it and let your body just release it.
Wow.
And in being able to do that, I got to the point where I could sit through, I think because we would break it up during the day, but I think our longest session was probably about 2.5 hours. And I got to the point where I could sit completely still for that 2 to 2.5 hours, which I found was amazing because I'm a jitterer. I've always got to be moving.
Yeah. No, that's amazing.
And learning how to quiet my body and quiet my mind during that time, that when I came back home after those 10 days, I realized how loud my world really was and how I didn't enjoy that. And so it after that, I really changed and I shifted what I allowed into my space. My home became more of my sanctuary at that
Hmm.
point, where I didn't have noise on just for the sake of having noise. It has to be there for an intentional. And I started looking at the people in my life and how I was feeling. Am I hanging out with them just out of some sense of duty, or am I hanging out with these people and afterwards I feel like crap, or do I hang out with these people and I feel uplifted afterwards? So I became a lot more aware of what energies I was around and
Hmm.
how it was impacting my body. And so it really did shift my boundaries that I made for myself. And it was an interesting, like I say, a very interesting process. I always said I would do it again. I haven't yet, but I would love to be able to go and do it again, to go have the tune up, as I
Yeah.
would say, because my body got so much out of that. It was, I think it's because I'm one of those people whose my nervous system is always kind of running on high alert, again because the PTSD. I'm stuck kind of in that high alert area. That 10 days when I was there, my body actually got to relax. And it was an awesome feeling. It was kind of uncomfortable at the beginning, but once I was able to kind of lean into it and just allow my body and my mind to go through that process, when we got to day 10 and we were allowed to talk again, some of us had a hard time with it. We're kind of like, I don't know if I want to go back to my life.
I just stay like that.
Because
Do you,
it was so peaceful. And we realized that's what our bodies needed so much. And we're like, oh no, now I have to go back to real world.
do you still meditate?
I will admit I've kind of gotten off the practice, and that's one thing I'm working back to because I I realize the power in it. It's for me, it was a great um 'cause I deal with a lot of chronic pain.
Hmm.
It was a great way for me to release that pain. So again, it was that, like, that getting feeling the a feeling coming up and then not reacting to it. And like they say, there's a whole lot of teaching behind it that's a whole podcast in itself, of just learning why of and the why of not reacting to certain things. but it was a fascinating process. So if anyone, there's a lot of Vipassana centers all around the world. So I'd say if you just Googled Vipassana meditation, you should be able to find them. And they have some that are only like 3 days. But start there. But yeah, the 10 days was a fantastic experience.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And then in leaving, we talked about the kind of those main principles of emotional intelligence being the self-awareness and the
Yeah.
personal power. Is there anything else or any tips or tricks that you would leave listeners with about, kind of creating that happiness within themselves?
Well, kind of going back to what I said, where the only thing that we truly control in our lives is our reactions. Our society is kind of built around knee-jerk reactions. Somebody says something, you react. Somebody types something on social media, you react. And it's learning how to step away from that reaction. And the biggest tip I have for that is take a breath. When you're in that moment, you can feel that reaction happening. Again, that's your self-awareness of you can feel the reaction coming from somewhere. You will have a body sensation of some sort that will tell you a reaction of some sort is
All
coming.
right.
Recognize it so you can cut it off at the pass. And a lot of times when you can feel, like with me, I can feel it rising in my chest. A lot of times I just have to step back, take a deep breath, be quiet for just a couple of seconds, and then you make your choice. Am I going to react? Am I not? Now, if I am going to react, I have to take responsibility for whatever those outcomes are going to be. And so and you think, oh, this is going to take like a 10-minute discussion. It's all in microseconds that these are
Right.
happening, that I make the decision. If I know that if I react in this way, this is the response I'm going to get. This is the repercussions of that. Is that what I want in my life? No. So I'm going to react this way. So it's knowing that when I'm going to make a reaction, that I'm making the conscious choice of what outcome I'm going to choose, and then taking the personal responsibility for that outcome. And I think if we did this on a daily basis, the world would be a different place.
I like it. What's the best way for people to follow you or to get in touch with you and learn more about what you have going on?
The best way for me, well, I mean, if you have questions, is email me, and it's just SheilaHSutherland@gmail.com. To connect with me on social media, I'm mostly Facebook and Instagram under Reignite Your Purpose. I'm just starting to delve into TikTok, but that's only something new. So don't look there. But yeah, Instagram and Facebook are my best ones.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for taking the time to do this. Like I said, you provided me with a lot of insight and useful tips. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much, Jordan. I appreciate you opening up your audience for me and for talking with me today.
Of course.